Good morning. My name's Jack McCullough, and I am really excited to be presenting to you, and I want to thank Exito for the opportunity. This is actually the first time I've presented to an audience in India, and it's really an honor to be involved with such a great conference. Circumstances are such I can't get to your beautiful country, but hopefully things will change soon, and we'll have an opportunity to meet in person. I want to give a little bit of my background. I have a fairly typical background for CFOs of my generation. I studied accounting in undergraduate school, and out of school I went to join KPMG, where I was an auditor. At the time, KPMG was known as Pete Marwick and Mitchell, and I left KPMG to become a controller for one of my clients. And along the way, I also received an MBA from the MIT Sloan School of Management. During the course of my career, I was a CFO for 26 different companies. And along the way, I realized the importance to developing a peer network. So I started a group that today is called the CFO Leadership Council. And to this day, I remain the president. I also founded the MIT Sloan CFO Summit, which is recognized as one of the premier conferences for chief financial officers in the world. And I'm a senior contributor to the Forbes CFO network. And lastly, I'm the author of Secrets of Rockstar CFOs. And the people at Exito have actually made a copy of that available to all of you who attended the conference. So if you stick around to the end, I'll give you a link from which you can download it. Exito wanted me to chat a little bit about leadership and communications from the CFO's perspective and working with the team. And after that, I will get into an action plan that CFOs can take to help their companies not only thrive, but to survive. To help their companies not only survive, but to thrive. So I want to talk a little bit about servant leadership, which I think is probably more important now than it ever has been. The servant leadership movement actually started in Massachusetts in the 1970s. And the concept of it is fairly simple, actually. It's turning leadership on its head. A servant leader is one whose main goal is to serve the team rather than the other way around. So as a CFO who's also a servant leader, you should be really looking to empower and protect your team and enable them to perform to their maximum potential. And your goal should not necessarily be helping the organization that you work for to thrive, but to help your team to thrive. And the theory is that if you do that successfully, you'll have happier, healthier, better motivated people. And in fact, because of that, your organization will be superior for that. So there's been a lot of white papers and books written about servant leadership that are available. If you're not familiar with it, I hope you'll consider it, because I think it really is the leadership philosophy that's most relevant in the modern world. CFOs are not exactly known for being inspirational. The typical CFO grew up in accounting, but it's time we defy that stereotype a little bit. So as a CFO, I think you have an opportunity to inspire others to act for the common good. What this means is you need to give them faith in your organization's mission. Sell the idea that as an employee of the company, you're all in the struggle together, and that fundamentally what you're doing on a day-to-day basis matters and the company matters, and really inspire them to really live and breathe the mission at work and to really make the commitment to make the organization its very best. The reason is right now you're still probably in survival mode, and truly you'll need everybody to give their all for your organization to survive the crisis and then to thrive once the crisis is past. Adding a little color to the inspiration thing, trust your direct reports. This is so critical. You've spent the last years of your career building and developing a team, and now is the time to trust them. You've got some great people on your team, hopefully, and also you've got too much going on right now. Most CFOs are busier than they ever have been in their career, and they're busy even during normal times. So trust the team that you've developed and cultivated the last few years and empower them to succeed. Also, it might be fairly obvious, but you really need to execute well. The best thing that you can do for your team right now is to do your own job extraordinarily well. Make really good decisions and make them quickly and make them work. So really, this is truly the best way you can help your employees and to inspire them, is to show that you're a great leader and doing your job to the best of your own ability, because they're going to follow suit. There's an expression, I'm unable to find who said it originally, but great leaders seek to understand first and then to be understood. And then I think this is critical. When you enter a conversation with your team, sure, you have a message that you need to get out, but you also need to understand what their motivations are, what's driving them, what their struggles and challenges and opportunities are. So seek to understand first and then seek to be understood. Right now is a time that CFOs and executives generally can truly transform their company from a cultural basis. Right now, I guess the obvious one is if you weren't a virtual company beforehand, you're about to become one and remain one now. And consider what that means from a cultural standpoint. You've probably figured out a lot of the technical and logistical issues about it, but if you settle into being a virtual company, what does that mean from a cultural standpoint? And every company is different. There's no one solution that I can offer to answer that question for you. But the main thing I would say is embrace the future. Almost all businesses are fundamentally going to change. The teams, the clients, the competition, all of that is changing. This is an opportunity for you to position your organization to win, because there will be winners and losers coming out of this crisis. In terms of being a virtual company, that movement started before the crisis, but I won't say that it was inevitable. At least it wasn't inevitable in the short term. Today, it's definitely inevitable. CFOs need to recognize this, that their businesses are going to change, that your company is going to be virtual. That train has left the station and it's not returning. And by the way, this is wonderful. It creates cost savings opportunities. It's going to enable you to attract some of those highly coveted young professionals that all organizations want to hire. So embrace this, recognize it, and make it part of the strength of your company. And then finally, you'll hear me talk about empowering your team. And I'm only repeating myself because I think it's important and it's worth repeating. Your company's virtual. It's an opportunity. Empower people, hire great people, and give them the ability and the authority to make and execute decisions that are in the best interest of the company. It's an amazing opportunity. No one would have wished this, but the coronavirus happened, and it is a chance to totally transform your company. So embrace the opportunity and emerge from the crisis stronger than ever before. Communication, and this is so very important. And it's important for any executive, but it's particularly important for CFOs. So surveys around the world, this is true in every culture almost, show that CFOs are the most respected and trusted executive in a company, even more so than a CEO. So this is actually an opportunity. It creates a responsibility, but it's also an opportunity to embrace the dialogue. Fundamentally, you're going to have an advantage over almost anyone else in that you're going to be trusted from day one, whereas some executives need to earn trust. In the case of a CFO, the trust is actually going to be assumed. So this is a wonderful opportunity and, again, a responsibility. So in the United States, we talk a lot about transparency. Never more important. Honesty is critical here. There's something called an error or a lie of omission. Don't make those. Don't withhold material facts that your audience needs to understand. Don't exaggerate. There was a popular political commentator a few years ago in the United States. His thing was the no spin zone. And he was actually pretty good at it. He interviewed politicians primarily, and he wouldn't let them spin. He would relentlessly hold them to actually answer questions and not spin things to make good news seem like it's bad news. Make your company the personal no spin zone. Make sure that you're disclosing all of the pertinent information. Frequency. I'm going to talk about this in the action plan, but you legitimately cannot over communicate right now. The dialogue should be ongoing. There's nothing more important than an executive, particularly a CFO, should be doing than communicating. It's the number one activity you should be doing. And then, relevancy. And again, we'll talk about this later, but when you're talking to people, understand your audience needs. Try to understand what is in it for the audience, not what's in it for you. The audience needs certain information. Try to provide that information to them in the most clear and forthcoming way you possibly can. I'd like to chat a little bit about the action plan. We're talking a little about survive and thrive. And hopefully you've taken the steps over the last couple of months to make sure that your organization thrives. But again, overcommunicate would be the first thing I'd recommend. Take care of the team. And one that you're probably forgetting, and I'm going to try to persuade you to remember to do it, take care of yourself. Develop a liquidity plan, engage in scenario planning, show strength, and rethink your business model. So in our remaining time, we're going to talk about each of these one at a time. And over communicate. Again, I don't want to harp on this too much since I just covered it, but it's time to really be communicating all the time and adjust for your audience. And what do I mean by that? So if you're talking to investors or people in the finance and accounting team, these people are financially oriented. So you should be maybe talking about a lot of financial data, a lot of accounting reporting, that sort of thing. In the United States, KPIs or key performance indicators are much more popular and useful to accountants. But adjust for your audience. Chances are, as an executive in your company, you're not talking exclusively to the audience, to a financial audience. So I think what you should do is understand your audience, and while you're giving the same facts, the way you present them will be different. If you're talking to rank and file employees or customers who may not be financially oriented, they might be better off with a narrative or candidly your storytelling ability. They may not want to see a bunch of data and numbers, but they may want to embrace the story that's behind the numbers. So again, consistent message, just told differently based upon your audience. And then again, be continuous. You should be communicating with an important stakeholder every day, indeed multiple times a day. Getting back to you hired a great team. Let them run the business while you're communicating with the outside world. And then consider the needs of all stakeholders. This is important. If you're a public company, obviously you have a duty to your stockholders, or even if you're a private company. But there's the stockholders, there's the board of directors, there's your CEO and fellow executives, and there's customers, suppliers, and the rank and file employees. So identify all the people who have a stake in the success of your organization and make sure that they're getting accurate and useful communications. This is important, taking care of the team. Clients do not come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients. And this was said by Richard Branson. And as you know, I'm an American, and I believe there's actually a law in the United States where if you're making a business presentation, you're required to quote Sir Richard Branson at least once. So he's a very colorful, well-respected leader, very, very well regarded in the United States. So we try to work him into any presentation that we can, as best we can. It's not actually a law, as you probably figured. But taking care of the team, be compassionate. And I'm the president of a very small company, but compassion is a big thing, and as is patience, they go hand in hand. When I think of the small company, but I think of the diverse challenges that they're facing in their non-work life. You know, I have a couple who they live alone, and they're probably going a little bit stir crazy because they don't have a lot of communications with the outside world. I have other people, other employees, they're taking care of their school-age kids. So during the workday, they need to stop working and make sure that their children who are getting virtual education lessons are paying attention and getting value from the lessons. I have others who are taking care of their elderly parents, and that's another challenge. So, you know, try to understand to the best of your ability what your employees are facing right now. Like you, they're facing unprecedented challenges. Trust them. They're going to get their work done if you trust and empower them. They're not going to get things done during conventional hours. You're going to be getting emails at 3 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock at night. But you know what? That's okay. Let them do it because they are facing a crisis in their personal life that they never imagined. And lastly, don't forget the boss. You know, I know sometimes we think of the president as Superwoman or Superman. And to an extent they are, but they're human beings too, and they're facing the same challenges that many of us face. So check in with him or her, make sure they understand that you're concerned with them, that you're there to help them, and that sort of thing. It makes a big difference. Just in my own life, I got an email from my executive assistant about 11 o'clock at night, and she sent me an email, and I responded back right away, and then she responded to that one and said, stop working. The point she wanted to talk about wasn't anything important. That was just actually her way to see if I was working, because she was concerned that I was working too much. And that meant so much. A lot of my employees are checking in, you know, hey, you sleeping, that type of thing. Do that with the boss. Remember that the boss is only human too. This is the one you're probably neglecting, so let's chat about it a little bit. Take care of yourself. You're a CFO. You've got a solid work ethic. Your company's in crisis, and your company needs you. So your instinct is probably to work around the clock. Don't do that. You're not doing your company any favors. You're not doing your team any favors. You've got to take care of yourself. Make sure that you exercise every day, or at least most days. You don't have to run a marathon or train to run a marathon or something crazy like that. Do, you know, go for a run like this gentleman in the picture. Do 45 minutes of yoga, lift some weights, whatever it is. Just get the blood flowing, take care of yourself. It'll, you know, help you think more clearly. It'll be a great stress release, and it gives you more energy so that those days that you do need to work late into the night or early into the morning, you can. It shouldn't be a lifestyle, but if you exercise regularly, you can actually do that more effectively. Eat and sleep, you know, go to bed. You know, I'm a 6-hour a night guy. Chances are you're similar. You know, get an appropriate level of sleep, keep your energy up and your ability to think clearly up. Don't skip meals, eat healthy. It's always important. It's never more important than now. Embrace the family. That's really what it's all about. If you're a parent, you know, take care of your kids, spend time with them, whatever it might be. And also, you know, look at this as an opportunity to develop some new skills. I've got a friend of mine, he's always wanted to learn to play the piano, and he's learning to play the piano. I've got another friend learning to play the guitar. I've known people who are actually studying Chinese or Spanish. You know, maybe you can learn a language during your free time now that you're not sitting in traffic 3 hours a day going back and forth to work. Find a hobby that might be of interest to you. It can be anything. And also volunteer. In the United States, there are a lot of food banks. As wealthy as we are, every major city has food banks for our less fortunate citizens. There may be something like that that could use your talents, either financially or just, you know, physically going to the plant. Volunteer a little bit. It's a time to make a difference to those who are less fortunate than you are. So take care of yourself. I can't overstate the importance of it. Scenario planning. One of the tropes in literature is the crystal ball. You can gaze into a crystal ball and see the future. Well, in the real world, crystal balls don't exist. At least I've never come across one. But you've actually got something better. You've got an analytical mind, and that's going to be better than any crystal ball that you're going to find, I think. So you've developed some analytical skills during the course of your career. Now's the perfect time to use them. Be cross-functional. Work with your fellow executives on scenario planning. So work with sales, work with marketing, work with your engineering team or whoever develops the product. And, you know, understand what the future is going to be like. One CFO in my book, Secrets of Rockstar CFOs, one CFO interviewed, she told me that when she joins a company, she gets to know the CFOs at the 10 largest customers. And that is so wonderful right now, because now she can call those CFOs and understand, hey, how are you doing? You know, what's your appetite for, you know, more of our products going forward? You know, are you able to pay for them? Can we work together to help you out? And that gives her so much better insight than relying on the word of salespeople. So, you know, if you have those relationships, now's the time to enjoy those benefits. Realism, optimism, pessimism. You'll probably want to run scenarios that are, you know, what you believe to be most realistic, run some optimistic scenarios and run some pessimistic scenarios and see what they mean. And, you know, be prepared for all of them. You know, I mean, hopefully the optimism will come through, but I haven't done a very good job of predicting the last couple of months. So I wouldn't necessarily go with my optimistic mode. So I'm not going to endorse any tools, but I will say there are some amazing scenario planning tools available for you, and you should do a little bit of homework and find the one that's right for your organization that really helps you get a glimpse into the future. And then as important as this is, don't suffer analysis paralysis. You don't want to keep running scenarios and not actually run your business. I had one CFO who told me once, while my competition is running scenarios, I'm stealing their customers. So don't be that person that has their customers stolen. Run some analysis quickly, make some decisions, and go execute. Scenario planning is not the goal, it's a means to the goal. Love to chat with you about a liquidity plan, because this, like all of them, is so important, but it might be particularly important. You'll want to access your access to capital, because if you don't have access to capital, all the other things you do might not be very important. So you'll want to talk to your investors and have candid conversation about what their appetite is to invest in the company. If you're private equity backed or venture backed, it might actually be an interesting opportunity, because those folks now, they're not seeking new investment. They are actually looking to strengthen the investments that they still believe in. So make sure they believe in your company, and see what their appetite is to continue to support you financially. And depending upon what that says, what you learn from that, seek out new investors too. There are people that are going to be out there looking for some new opportunities. Maybe their portfolio isn't working out the way they want to, but there's still a lot of people with money, and the stock market in the United States is doing phenomenally as of this moment. So there's some money out there. It might be a good time to seek out some new investors. And then do some compassionate renegotiation. And by that, I mean, you're probably going to talk to your bankers, your suppliers, maybe your employees if you have a union, and renegotiate some things. And these are going to be difficult conversations, because you're going to ask your bank for a lower rate and a longer payment term. You're going to ask your supplier to cut prices. You might have to ask your employees to take a pay cut. But be compassionate when you do this. A couple of reasons. One, you don't want to bankrupt a valued business partner. There is going to be life after COVID-19, and you want your partners to emerge from it strong along with you. And the other thing is, now's the time that's going to sort of reflect your character. And if you behave in a ruthless, heartless manner, that's going to reveal a lot to the world about the type of person you are and the type of company you are. So yes, renegotiate hard, but fair, and be compassionate. You do not want to ruin people's lives just to keep your own company going for an extra month. Develop a liquidity plan. Find out how long you can turn receivables around. Can you turn your accounts receivable into cash? Are there other things that you can do, reducing expenses, just to make your company a lot more liquid? The other thing is revenue potential. There may be some opportunities in the modern world that didn't exist for you before, and you need to work with your sales and marketing folks and figure out what those opportunities are, and assess the potential, and see if you can create some new revenue streams for your company. Also, assess some expenses. In the United States, we say there's a must-have and a nice-to-have. Find out what the must-haves are right now, and find out what the things that are simply nice to have. And the nice-to-haves, maybe now's the time to reduce those expenses. But liquidity plans, so critical. Show some strength. Now's the time to show some muscle. It's never been more important than it is now. It signals to the world that you are here to stay. History teaches us that companies that behave boldly during the crisis are the ones that survive and emerge as marketing leaders. Markets are suppressed. This might be a good opportunity to buy a competitor, invest in technology, and hire some more talent. There might be some things out there that are more affordable now that weren't affordable 6 months ago. So do a little research, and you might actually find that there's some amazing opportunities to grow your business. And again, let the world know that you're not only going to survive, but thrive. And rethink your business model. I have a friend who is a barber. And in the United States, barbers, it's not just about cutting hair. It's a social experience. You go in and you chat with the people in the community. So it's a truly social thing. But that whole experience is going to have to be rethought. Are people really going to want to sit in a waiting room and socialize? It might be they might sit in their car. You may have trouble finding barbers who want to work for you. There might be people uncomfortable putting their hands on strangers to cut their hair. So if a simple business like a barber shop is rethinking its model, chances are, if you work for a business complex enough to have a chief financial officer, you'll need to rethink yours too. Work cross-functionally. As a CFO, you don't have all of the answers, but you have some of them. So work with sales, marketing, engineering, the president, operations, and really, work together as a unit and rethink what your future is going to be like. Talk directly to your customers, understand your market. You don't have all the answers without talking to the customers. You might want to do a survey or even some focus groups. Understand the competition, find out what they're doing and what that means for your business. Maybe your competition can be a friendly rival going forward. Doesn't have to be cutthroat. Maybe both of you can survive. And keep in mind, chances are you're the only financial expert on your team, and that's invaluable. So don't be one of those old school accountant types who sits in the corner and takes notes. You're a financial expert and a strategic thinker. Make sure your voice is heard. And that's my presentation. I would like to thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Exito. Hopefully you found some of this worthwhile. I encourage you to keep in touch. My contact information is there. If you do want a copy of my book, if you go to rockstarcfos.com/ebook, you can download it there. But thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.